Welcome back to the Reckless CEO podcast. Excited about today. Today I'm going to share about a book or a theory. Right, this book is called Letting Go. It's by Dr. Hawkins. Great book. Dr. Hawkins does a lot of work in the space of kind of transcendence. It's a spiritual. It's psychological. But he's a great study. He's got another book called Transcending Levels of Consciousness. Great book. Another book called Power versus Force. Just all incredible reads. Now they are lengthy. Great audibles, right? I like to put them on before I go to the gym. If I'm walking on the treadmill, things like that. Taking a nightly walk. So just really good reads. But they're the things that you're going to have to potentially consume a couple times, right? This isn't a one and done, right? This theory of letting go is something that you need to constantly be practicing. And just when you think you figured it out, you'll realize that you haven't. And so the importance of letting go, right? And what is this, right? So kind of I'd say the summary of it, right? It's a psychological and spiritual process that, I'll just chop it in here. It's a psychological and spiritual process that involves accepting what is and reducing attachments to desires, expectations, and outcomes. Right now, this is much easier said than done, of course. But again, I want to kind of give you some of my perspective of going through this, right? And so, when you start to get into letting go and taking or accepting this understanding, right? It's that thoughts become things, right? And so often we're so consumed by negativity, right? We just recently had an election, right? And whether you are liberal or you're conservative, they nonstop in the media, right? There's constantly stuff going out there. And majority of it isn't positive, right? And whether you're, again, on the left or the right side, it creates so much separation and polarity across the spectrums, right? Because it's like you can't be left and not be far left, and you can't be right and not be far left or far right, right? It's just everything is extremes nowadays. And then, even when you're looking at, the opposing parties, right? They're constantly just belittling and just putting them down and just, all the negative things around that, right? Or the news, right? The news is always showing you all the bad stuff that's happening, right? They're rarely ever putting something out there about good. And every once in a while they do, right? Even when they do, it's a short snippet that is just, included in it, right? Rarely do they say, hey man, let's talk about how great the world is today. Right now, I believe that there's a lot of really good people out there. I believe that most people are inherently good, right? I think that for majority of people that are maybe bad people or negative people, so much of that is the lens that they see themselves through. So they're projecting themselves onto others. Therefore, others see them this way as well, right? So we have to pay close attention to our thoughts, right? And the things that we're consuming. Right. I mean, I don't even have cable or, anything like that in my house. I don't watch the news. Even with the elections, I might have put it on for a second just to see what was, going on. But end of the day, the more that I'm consuming of that, right? If I look back over my life and I say, at 32 years old, I can honestly look back and say that there has never been a president or an election that has ever affected my life. Right. And maybe there are in a trickle down way of maybe jobs were lost and all of these things. But me directly being impacted by what happened, I can't say that I can draw a straight line to that. And maybe you can. Right. Everyone has a different, different perspective, different circumstances. Right. But for me, it's like I try not to get too much into all of these things, because the more I let it control me and consume me, the more it starts to show up in my life. Right. And so this idea of, your thoughts become things, right? What are the things that you're thinking about on a daily basis, right? Think of all the things that are out of your control, right? All of the things that we stress about nonstop that we can't even change, right? Marcus Aurelius talks about, he says, control your circle of control, right? And he's like, what is that, right? Well, your circle of control is what you can control. What are those things, right? You can control how you show up. You can control how you treat people, and you can control how you respond, right? Outside of that, there's not really much that you can control. Now, so often we want to try to control all these things, right? Think about it from a relationship standpoint, right? Maybe you meet somebody for the first time and you like them, and you feel yourself maybe getting stressed if you don't hear from them or know what's going on or know where they're at on it or what their perspective is. And so all of a sudden you start to maybe overdo it, right? You're trying to, hey, you know that you have good intentions, right? But because you know that you have these good intentions, you want to make sure that they can see it, that they understand it. And so you're worried about maybe how they think about you, right? And so we start to stress ourselves out. Oh, I don't hear from them. What's going on? What are they thinking? What are they doing? Right? We go through all of these thoughts, right? Even think about it from a sales perspective, right? I recently had a deal that I was working on, and this is a large deal, and multiple properties, one of the bigger potential contracts that our company could land or had landed. And, I was traveling, I was out of town. And so I sent a couple reps out to, handle a meeting, an adjustment that we had going on. And, one of the guys didn't show up, and the guy calls me, and he's frustrated. He's irritated, and basically says, I'm done with you guys. I'm done with it. Right. And at this point, I'd put hours in through inspections and conversations and, doing all the things that I could do to make sure this was taken care of. And then I delegate the work, and the ball gets dropped. Now I was frustrated with the rep. And I was also, looking at this situation of, I'm reaching out to the guys, not responding to me, not getting back to me. I'm trying to kind of plead my case of like, hey, man, listen, it was an accident. I promised the situation, we're going to get it taken care of, and we probably didn't do the best job, right? That we did drop the ball. And I found myself being frustrated, irritated, and stressed out of the fact that, like, we lost this deal. How can I get it back? What do I got to do? Do I need to go meet with him? Do I need to go get in front of him? And I'm trying to think about all these things, right? And then eventually, I reached out to him, and I said, hey, man, listen, I do appreciate the opportunity to work with you. I completely understand your frustration, and I apologize. And, moving forward, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And if you decide not to work with us, I completely understand, that's your decision to make. But I do promise you that if you do decide to move forward with us, that I'll do everything, in my control to make sure this doesn't, things go well. And left it at that. Didn't hear anything. A couple weeks later, get a call from him. Hey, Mike, just wanted to reach out and say, I appreciate the message. We want to continue to work with you guys. Now, right, so this same instance right here, I could have been so stressed. I could have been mad at the team. I could have been irritated. I could have been, trying to control the way that he was perceiving it, even though I felt that it wasn't necessarily correct, maybe, right? But just those instances, right, there's so many things that are out of our control. Right. And now this doesn't say that, hey, you just let go of everything and just hope things happen for you. Well, that's not the case either. Right. I think so much of this is about, you can control what you can control, just like we talked about. Right. How you show up, how you receive things, how you treat people. Those are the things that you can control. Now, saying that, it's your duty to do everything you can to become that best version of yourself. Right. That's part of this. Right. Part of this is that, in order to let go, you also have to be doing the work. It's not just letting go and not caring about anything. It's having habits that align with your goals. Right. It's doing all of the stuff. It's learning. It's growing. It's developing. It's putting yourself in the position so that when the opportunity comes, that you can take advantage of it. Right. The worst thing that we can do for an opportunity is not be ready for it. Right. And so that's kind of what this letting go is. It's saying, hey, control what you can control. Be the best version of you. Show up the best way that you can. Treat people the best way possible. And then let go. Don't hold on to the attachments. Right. If you're new to a relationship, same thing. Right. You can't control how they feel, how they think, what they want. But you can control how you treat them. You can control how you show up and the things that you do. And then you have to, let go of that attachment. And not have an expectation to say, well, if I do this, I should get this in return. The I love the law of reciprocity. Where the law of reciprocity is this idea that, when you do good, you get good back. Now, too often I think that we forget that the law of reciprocity doesn't necessarily mean that when you do good to this person that you deserve to get it back from that person. It's not it. It's saying that when you put good out there, you do good for one individual, for this person, for that person, that good will come your way. And that's what letting go is, right? Removing that expectation, right? The desires, the judgments, right? The outcomes, right? How often are we so attached to an outcome that when we don't get it, we're just demoralized? We're destroyed by it because it's like, man, I did all of this. I put in all of that work and this is the outcome I got. Right. And the thing is that Garth Brooks sings a song. He says, it's a thank God for unanswered prayers. Right. And I think that we can all live by that. Right. Because in the moment, right, when we're attaching ourselves to an outcome or a situation or an expectation, we might be praying about it. We're talking about it. We're thinking about it. It's consuming us. Because that's the thing that we want or we think we want. Right? And how often can you look back and say, man, I'm so glad that I didn't get the thing that I wanted more than anything. Right? Because those are the things that's out of your control. Like the universal consciousness is moving and it's constantly working, whether you know that it is or not. And so no matter what your plan is, there's a bigger plan for you. Right? No matter what your plan is, and maybe you're committed to work at a place and you're ready to do all that. And next thing you know, they shut jobs down and they fire everybody. And now what do? Well, guess what? That's a great opportunity. Now that's a great opportunity to say, hey man, this wasn't what was ready. This wasn't what was out there for me. I wasn't supposed to do this thing. Now I need a shift. Now I need to go this direction. Right? Too often we look at every situation and we almost take it personal when it doesn't go our way. Right? Rather than saying, what's the beauty in this? Right? How can I reframe this situation? Right? How can I understand it from a different lens and say, yeah, all these jobs got cut. Yeah, I've committed, or I was in this marriage for 15 years and they don't want to be with me anymore. Right? Well, maybe that's your opportunity to go and rediscover you. Maybe that's your opportunity to go find the person that's actually made for you. Maybe that person that was made for you at the time, it wasn't made for you anymore. Right? There is a thing. People are in our lives for reasons, or they're in our lives for seasons. And we can't attach ourselves to how it's got to be. I say it all the time as a business owner. I've seen so many people come and go. I've seen so many people come in that said, man, I'll never leave you. I'll be with you forever. I love what we do here. And then next thing you know, they were gone and I haven't heard from them in years. Now, that doesn't mean that because of that situation that every single person that comes in my company, I'm going to treat them through the lens of people that have left me. No. I look at what I have or what I've created is just my opportunity to build my own table, to have my own platform, to do what I want to do. And I look at that as an opportunity to be a mentor and a coach and grow people and be creative and a builder. Right? I don't hold on to the people that have come in and then I've, given everything I can to them and then they leave me. And then now I'm going to treat everybody like as if that's going to happen. No, every single person that comes in, I'm going to give them 100% of my commitment to help them get to where they want to be, no matter what. I'm not going to have an attachment to, hey, if they leave me, now I'm distraught and I'm going to look at every single person as if they might leave me one day. You can't control that. Right? I lean into the relationship stuff a lot because we can all relate. Right? Same thing in a relationship, right? If you're you spend all this time with a person and they want to go, separate ways, how do you allow that to affect you? Right? Do you hold, judgment towards them forever, resentment towards them forever? Because so often with a lot of this letting go idea is that we have to let go of that resentment. We have to let go of that internal animosity because the thing is that, holding on to something that like resentment, right? All it's doing is affecting you. You're not even affecting the other person. You're only allowing it to bother you and fester and continue to get worse and worse. And you have to let it go. And you've got to understand that most things are going to be like that, right? You can control what you can control. Outside of that, you have to You have to be able to share yourself and give and, and help people and grow people and just love at the end of the day, because that's all we ever want, right? Wars get started because people don't get enough love, right? People take their lives because they're not getting the love they want. That's all we all want. We're all seeking love at the end of the day, and significance and contribution and growth, right? That's all we want. Those are our human desires and drivers, is that we just want to feel important. We just want to feel that people need us, right? But we can't have this feeling of people of wanting to find significance and then holding people to an expectation. You've got to let go. And so I leave with you today, right? Where can you apply this in your life, right? What are the things that you're allowing to consume you? What are the, think maybe in the first thing in the morning you wake up and your first thing you're doing is alarm goes off and you're pulling up social media, right? Now immediately you're looking at what everybody else is doing. What do they have going on? What do they have that's better than me? How is their company better than mine? Right? I've felt all this, the comparison. One of the best things I did was removing social media from my phone. And so I don't even look at it unless I'm in the office and need to check it for a business thing. Right? I'm not spending my day worrying about what other people are doing or allowing, my first thought in the morning to be not grateful. Right? So this part of letting go is being able to start to build these habits and structures, to your day-to-day life, so that you know that with confidence that you are doing everything that you can do to control what you can control and allowing the rest to just happen. And again, I know this is much easier said than done. This is a practice. This has to be intentional, right? And whether it's meditation or going to the gym or reading, right? You have to constantly be paying attention to what you're consuming, because those thoughts do become things, right? So where in your life do you feel like maybe you're holding on to an expectation? Where in your life are you holding on to like this outcome that you're saying, man, if I don't get this outcome, I'm never going to be the same again, right? Think about that. Just make a list, right? And start to just become aware. I think that's the most important thing with all of this, is that, it's the awareness, because we can't shift how we think and move in an instant, right? It takes time, it takes rep, and it takes awareness, right? Being able to know when you're kind of going down that road again and you're doubting yourself and you're comparing yourself, to be able to pull yourself back and say, hey, listen, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to let go, right? Maybe write it out, right? Just find ways to get these things out of your system. Find ways to just find silence, to separate yourself from the reality and everything that's going on, right? Because that awareness to how you're feeling and what's happening around you is going to allow you to be more present, going to allow you to build better relationships, do more for people. Right? At the end of the day, that's the biggest thing, is that, like I said, we all want to feel a significance. We all want to feel something, and that's why we do what we do. And that's why we hold on to these expectations, because we know that if somebody did it for us, we probably wouldn't do that to them. Right? So a lot of our judgment comes from misalignment with the people around us. And that's another piece, right? The importance of making sure that you've got people around you that have the same beliefs, have the same values, want the same things, because they're going to allow you to work through this, right? And one of the most important things that you can do is talk about it. Right? I know for me, I have hesitated when I'm frustrated or things aren't going well in business or maybe a relationship, right? And I hold on to it. I don't have that conversation because I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to feel the way I feel. Right? I'm scared to voice maybe the way I feel, because maybe they'll leave me if I'm honest. Right? But that's the thing that we have to be able to be honest, and we got to have people around us that understand that everything that we're doing is not coming from a negative lens, but coming from the human lens, our experience, what we're going through. Right? That's why empathy is so important. Right? Understanding that we would probably be exactly how each other are, if we had that playbook, if we grew up that same way, if we consumed the same things, we would be that same individual. Right? That's the importance of being the type of person that can transcend, that can become aware, that can grow and develop, so that you can then help other people do the same thing. Reckless CEO,